We have 4 or 5 hours to maximize transactions and maximize efficiency at what is essentially the largest restaurant in the city. Communication is the baseline for any successful relationship, right? So the relationship between staff to staff and staff to guest, if we can improve that communication in any way, ultimately that's going to service all kinds of enterprise priorities that we have.
I believe our downtime was about 40 to 50 hours this year with the implementation of Listo. Our numbers were 10 to 15 hours of downtime because of the immediate response we were able to get to reduce downtime, reduce money loss, and actually bring up productivity within the building.
Delaware North, the hospitality provider, we have operations all across North America, in the UK and Australia. We have over 50 properties, some of the most recognizable buildings in the world. We want to make sure that we can keep guests focused on what's happening on the field rather than what's happening, at our concession stand, at our retail stores.
The reason we kind of wanted to find a solution is it started with ordering in warehouse. So if a stand or a location needed additional product, they would have to call down to the warehouse. The warehouse desk would have to answer, write down the order, then take that order into the computer, print it out while other orders were coming in.
We also are the main call center, the command center for all of Delaware North at that property. We only had one worker on the desk, so we knew we were missing orders prior to gates because that's when we get a bulk of our orders, and we weren't able to receive those calls, write down the order in enough time for us to be able to accept all those phone calls. On game day, we can receive, we have 70 locations, so you can technically receive up to 70 calls at the same time. Obviously, that's impossible.
To feed 40,000 people a day, it's not just cooking a brat and serving it. There's a lot that goes into that. We're using data analytics more. We're using technology more. We're not just writing things on pieces of paper or napkins. We're now using our computers, and we're using programs like Listo to make those efficiencies faster and save money in labor and cost of goods.
Prior to Listo, what would have been a 5-minute reporting issue turned into possibly an hour. Our previous communication was essentially through a to-do list or just a verbal chain of commands per se. What this required was just constant communication because again, you have the people that are not only, they don't have a dedicated area to report IT issues, so they're doing IT issues, they're doing warehouse ordering, they're doing inventory.
We're looking at this in 3 sort of distinct use cases. 2 of which are the back of the house, 1 of which is in the front of the house. In the front of the house, we're starting primarily in the premium areas, in the suites areas, putting a user interface in front of a suite guest that allows them to more directly affect what's happening in their space and on the game day in general. In the back of the house, there are 2 main workflows that we're looking at. One is a employee-to-employee communication tool. So instead of having to go through a couple layers of human beings to try to track down the right team, Listo empowers us to communicate directly with the maintenance team, for instance, to say, here's the problem, here's the location, and we can cut across all that noise in the communication workflow. The people who are in the middle of that communication chain are no longer required to spend time and energy on something that they're just chasing down from a communication standpoint, which then frees them up to do the things they're supposed to be doing, the tasks that they need to be taken care of. Scenario number 3 is the ability to contact the warehouse and get product to your location in an efficient time manner will directly affect your ability to sell that product to service our guests. The recording of that interaction didn't exist historically. Now we can see, here's what time it went down, here's how long it took us to get the product there, here's what happened in the middle.
One of our concession stands or kitchens, we have a QR code on the wall. Anyone can scan it with their phone. We then have a drop-down list of different items that are having issues. So you can know exactly what piece of equipment it is that needs to be addressed and where it is. And then you can also see, who to follow up with. It keeps all the communication much more organized, I'd say.
With Listo, each order comes down as a separate order. So once we installed Listo, we had a 0 miss.
It gives me a direct line to essentially every stand, every location in the building. So if they have a problem, something pops up, rather than them having to try to get a hold of the supervisor, which then takes it to a manager, which then eventually messages to me. Now those employees can have direct communication to me That way we can just make sure we stay on top of things. It really has made it so much easier and just a way quicker process as far as addressing items.
The fact that we now have, in essence, an actual accountability to show that, a task was delivered, the task was assigned, and the task was completed. That was something we were entirely missing before.
It's not just savings, but it's having the products in your concession stands to sell, to make money. If you don't have the product, you're going to lose money. Imagine having IT on this, because if your point of sale goes down, you can't sell. If I use Listo, connect to IT, they can quickly get to my location to fix it, to get me up and running to sell.
Our work has kind of changed with having Listo in definitely a positive manner. Multiple people can be looking at where things are at the same time, which is honestly very life-changing for us.
The best feedback we heard in the first 24 hours was the warehouse manager who sat in the warehouse at the end of the first event and said, "I've never sat here with so little stress on a game day." He was able to track and take in requests from the stands just like we normally would, but they came down in an organized and a very clear manner. Honestly, the engagement and the adoption was pretty instantaneous. Once they saw that this is actually going to make their life a little bit easier, the buy-in was just about instant.
Think if you're Delaware North and you had this in every single one of your parks, and you can now run data on what each park did, productivity, how quick they're running their warehouse orders. Compare this to Milwaukee, to San Diego, to Minnesota, and see where some of the productivity is there or not there. So I could see this being as a useful tool for an enterprise operation like Delaware North. Listo has helped us become more efficient in our operation and serving products. One thing I could say about the Listo team was I was very happy to work with them. They were excited to work with us. They saw our problem. They helped brainstorm our problem. They were really fantastic to work with. It was a seamless process, and I was really impressed.